Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and over the last couple of months, I've been sharing some of my personal patterns that I've made with the golden rule. Well, today I'd like to answer some of those questions that have been asked in the comments to the best of my ability, and I'm also going to share some tips and techniques that I like to use when using this set. And at the very end, I'm going to share with you what I think is probably the easiest but most versatile pattern in the set. The set that I've started with has a binder that has 280 patterns in it. It also came with 2 dressmaker rulers, and on the back it does have pictures on how to use those rulers. It also came with the tools that I'm going to need, a DVD for some help, and another curved ruler. To quickly go over this, we only need 2 sizes of our body to make the patterns, our bust size and the hip size. With those measurements, we're able to make any one of these 280 patterns. So we have the picture on the front, and the pattern is miniature on the back. With this ruler, we're able to enlarge this, join the dots, and do our pattern. I do have a few videos. I'll put a link in the description that goes into more detail on how to enlarge these. But today, I just want to take time and answer some of those questions. And then I'm going to quickly show you pattern number 237. This is this little cover-up. And there's lots of things that we can do to this cover-up. But let's answer some of those questions. The one question I get is, what size is this going to fit up to? And how big is the tape measure? The tape measure is 149 centimeters. And when I look at the end of this ruler, which gives us our sizes, it looks that the pattern will go up to about a size 50. Anything above that, you can get sets for extra large, and they will say full figures. There are some full figure patterns in this book, and we can tell that by the guides. In the binder, we do have a symbol page. And that means the other question is, what languages can I get this in? Well, we can get this in lots of different languages. I happen to have the English version, but you can get it in other languages. And the symbols are going to work for all languages. And for the sizing, I do have sizing pictures. So on the bottom of the page, we do have the darker mannequin that represents the fuller figures, a white one which represents clothing that would suit slimmer figures. So as we go through the booklet, we're going to see those little mannequins, and that's going to help us gauge what's going to look good on us and what are suitable for the fuller figure or the very slender figure. But if you do have the fuller size, I would recommend just getting the kit for the fuller size. We also have patterns that are for maternity, and this little symbol here will represent what type of fabric we should use. We have 2 types of fabric. We have a woven or a knit. If it has this little sweater on it, it's suitable for a stretch knit fabric. If there's no symbol, we get to use a woven. For example, these 2 shirts and the pants, it is recommended for a stretch knit. Where we don't see a symbol, it's going to need a woven. Another question I get asked a lot is, how many men's patterns are in this 280 set? So we have a t-shirt, a shirt, and a pair of jeans. We have shorts and a hooded jacket and a suit. But you can also get a supplement that is just designed for men's patterns. There are also children's patterns in this set. And it will give you a size 3 to 6. The measurements are going to work the same, but we do have to work around that sizing. So we have some bathwear, some little girl patterns, another dress, and some sportswear that could go for both boys or girls. You can also get supplements for just children. So starting with this one basic set, we have men's, women's, and some children's. That extra large set does give us the larger tape measure to go along with those patterns. Another question I did receive is, can I use this system on commercial patterns? I don't see where we would be able to, because we do start with this little piece, blow it up, and join the dots. We can use this as a comparison to the commercial patterns, but I don't see where this system would work together. Another question was, can you draft out the pattern right on your regular fabric? And I would have to say no. The reason is drafting out this pattern just puts it on paper. That paper is going to give us grain lines. The grain lines will not line up if we do it on the regular fabric. So we do need to put it on the paper first so that we can match it up to the proper grain lines. The seam allowances are not included, and that way we can add whatever seam allowances we feel comfortable in. I like to change my seam allowances depending on where the seam is going to go and what fabric I'm using. I might do a different seam treatment along the side, so I'll want a bigger seam allowance. If I'm just going to serge the item together, then I can use a smaller seam allowance. So adding your own seam allowance is really a bonus to what you're going to do. Another question I get asked a lot is, my body is not a normal body. How is this system going to fit me? Well, I don't think any of us have a perfect body. Myself, I'm short, but I'm not petite. I'm large in the shoulders. I have a short torso, long legs, and a regular hip. So I definitely do not fit the normal size, but it seems to fit me fine. Another question was, what paper did you use for your patterns? Well, there's lots of different paper we can use. You can get a special dressmaker paper. I use a roll of paper from IKEA, and this was from the child's department. You can also go directly to the Golden Rule website and ask questions. And that's probably the best thing to do. There's also a Facebook group, so you can go onto the Facebook group and ask the questions that you need answered. But that's what I have, the best to my knowledge. I do hope that is going to help. So for today, I'm going to make pattern 237, and it's this little jacket. It's a cover-up. So what we're looking at is a back, a front, and a sleeve. There's no set-in seams. It's a very smooth design. It has a generous hem to it. The picture does tell us it's a non-stretch. But with something this loose, you could pretty much make it in any fabric. I'm going to be making this in towel fabric. That way I can use it coming out of the pool or out of the bath. But this could be made in a velvet, and it would be beautiful for evening wear. You could add a little tie in the center. There are no pockets, so we could add pockets. You could make this longer. You can omit the sleeves or make the sleeves longer. Because of the generous size, we could make this in denim, satin, silks, organzas, toweling. Almost every fabric we're going to be able to make this pattern with. And that fabric is going to change this little cover-up every single time we do it. So this is a very versatile pattern, and it's going to be a very easy pattern to sew. So I'm going to draft this out in my size and cut it out using a nice thick towel fabric. So I've enlarged the pattern following the dots and that X. This is very easy to sew together. The first thing we're going to do is put on this little back facing. So the right side's touching. I stitched that facing on. I trimmed it so that it has a little bit of give. Now I'm going to take this and move it right around to the back. So this is now that back side. Stitch this little area here down right in the seam allowance, and then do a row of top stitching. So I'm going to stitch this area. I do want to stitch this flap down because I'm going to cover it with the shoulders. That facing has been stitched down. We can now add on the shoulders. Match up the shoulder seams, and you're going to notice that it's a little bit big. This is this piece that's a little bit too big. Fold it right along this edge, coming over to the front. So all those seams are going to match up. I'm just wrapping it around and continue pinning. So when we take a look at it, this is the sleeve, the shoulder. Inside is this neck and facing. We've just wrapped that right over. So we can stitch our seam allowance right along that edge. And I'm going to do this to both sleeves. Once that seam has been done, when we turn this right side out, this area here is going to be inside. So this is the collar. This was the piece we folded over, so it's inside there. So now we have a clean back neck, and this is the piece that's coming down the front. So with both of those shoulders done, I have that back and the built-in front facing. Press those seams, and if you'd like, do a row of top stitching, and then we can do those sleeves. There was a mark that did give us identification to the front. I have that center point matching up to that shoulder. Match up those sleeves and stitch that sleeve down on both sides. We have the front, the back, and that sleeves on. Match right sides and stitch all the way down. With that sleeve and side seam done, we can now do the hem. This little part that we pulled over to the front is the measurement that we need throughout the entire front. So we really can just take that bottom, match it up, and mark it. So that measurement is now the same as that measurement. Have right sides facing and fold right along that fold line. And we only need to stitch that bottom down. Then we're going to be able to take that and turn it right side out. And that's the start of the hem. We need to do this to both sides. We can now flip that right side out. So we have a nice start to that hem. This folded edge is going to match all the way up to the top. And this is on both sides. I did do an overlock stitch as I was stitching this, so now I'm going to be able to just roll that hem over and top stitch all the way around. Once that little rolled hem is done, we're going to be able to stitch down this front facing. It's the same from the top to the bottom, so we can pin it and just stitch that down. Do that to both sides, and we're done. That little wrap is now done. Having those drop sleeves really makes it an easy construction. We have that self-facing on the front, so the only thing additional we needed to add was this facing in the back. So it has a very smooth, clean back. As we were putting this together, we could have put a pocket here right in the side seams, or we can put a pocket right here in the front. But let's see what it looks like on just the way it is. So the little wrap is now done. This was only made out of toweling, and I added the sleeves that they have recommended, but how cute would this be with long sleeves and some fun fabric? You could put a little closure here in the top, make it longer, even make it a little bit shorter. We have the two front pieces, a back piece, and two very simple sleeves. We can add pockets and change it in many different ways. And the back has this nice old-fashioned swing jacket style. I think once you make one, you will probably want to make more. I'll put a link in the description to the Golden Rule system that I am using, but be sure to choose the size that is most appropriate for you. And if ever you have any questions, I would definitely drop them a line and ask them. I'm sorry, I do not know all of the answers, but I'm sure they do. I'll also put a link in the description to the first video that I did where we talk about how we take those little patterns and blow them up to the size that fits us. So I do hope this video answered some of your questions and took some of the mystery out of the golden rule. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.